it's not so much that the dog hates the postman or the postwoman. That simply isn't true. That would suggest that we have a dog sitting or lying in its bed at some stage, mulling over how much it hates the postal worker. That just doesn't happen. But what does happen is that dogs are creatures of habit and repetition. And of course we know that the post is delivered every day. And so what this builds up from the dog's perspective is a routine. Every day the dog runs to the door. The post is delivered and the postman walks away. So from the dog's perspective, it's achieved its job.
It was quite frightening, obviously. It was shock more than anything.
The dog just jumped up and nicked my finger.
The dog had bitten through my fingernail.
There's a fang mark in my finger.
The dog clung onto my left arm on the side there, and was sort of dragging me down.
Describing a happy dog and an aggressive dog is relatively easy, and I'll do that for you. It's the section in the middle we could be more concerned about. The happy dog, we're likely to see the fast-beating tail, its ears aloft, it could almost look like it's smiling. Spotting a relaxed, happy dog, I think all humans are pretty good at doing that. The clearly aggressive dog is just as easy to identify. We could have the dog barking aggressively. You know it when you hear it. The dog could be making overt lunges. It could be really moving into the space of the postal worker. It could be growling. It could be lifting its lips, showing its teeth. The tail could be quite rigid up over the dog and looking for action. So this is a dog that I would classify as not a dog to interact with. And in the middle ground, we then have a dog where we might have to take longer before we can make a very good assessment. The sort of body language you can see in a dog of this nature would be more rigid. It might be a lower head. It would be giving that individual a more steely stare. There may even be some very low growling, which is worth listening out for. So these are very subtle signals that the dog is not to be approached and that the dog could be weighing up the situation before itself.
You know which ones are nice dogs, you know which ones, to be a little bit wary of.
You get blasé, you just go down the road, whack, 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 you've done it, and you get caught out occasionally.
The posting pegs we given by Royal Mail are a good idea in 90% of the cases.
I just got bit with a dog through a letterbox.
I shouldn't have put my fingers through the letterbox.
I didn't even know there was a dog there.
I felt disappointed with myself for having made myself vulnerable. Should have been more cautious.
Once we lean over a fence, some dogs may see that as a threat. Some dogs may be protective towards the owner, or just to the environment and just waiting for its opportunity. Some dogs will process it in that way. This is where the dog may see the other person coming within the owner's bubble, and that dog may well defend that bubble on the owner's behalf.
I was always told dogs would attack you if they feel you're invading their premises, but it wasn't on their property whatsoever.
I'm a lot more cautious, even if the owner's there and the dog is on a lead. Not to reach out, keep the parcel closer to me for the customer to take it from me rather than me stretching out over the dog.
So just remaining aware of your own personal space and personal safety is the key point to make there. When you have a dog behind a door that is pretty secure, then I think the risk is comparatively low. When, however, you're entering a fenced-in property where you're into the garden or walking up a driveway and a dog is known to be there and loose, then the threat or the risk is a great deal higher.
He opened the front door, so they just came rushing out at me, and he sunk his teeth into my thigh was the first bite, and he punctured my thigh.
I certainly wouldn't enter a premises where there's gates and dogs behind that gate.
I'm not taking the risk anymore. If it came to the situation where I wasn't comfortable about delivering, then I wouldn't deliver. I'd take the packet or the post back to the office and inform the manager.
If in doubt, my advice would be to keep out. Part of the difficulty as a postal worker when they encounter a dog loose on the streets is that they could be readily identified as that, and the dog may decide to take some aggressive action towards that worker.
I got to the last delivery point and then there was a stray dog walking through the fields. I remember basic training to put the bag in front of myself, let the dog attack the bag, and it sneaked off. So I thought that was it, so I attempted to carry on with my delivery, and it sneaked up on behind me and bit me on the shin.
The key thing is, should a dog express any aggressive behaviour, is just to try to create some distance. If there was an enclosed garden environment where the postal worker could let themselves into whilst they raised help, that would be a good first line of attack. But if they see a dog at a distance and they're not sure about its behaviour, my best advice would be to remain calm, not to shout, and also to remove themselves from that environment slowly and not to run. The postal worker could well be at risk when they are doing this, either handing over the device to be signed or handing over the parcel.
When I handed the PDA to her, that's when the dog ran round the back and bit me. Before that, he was barking in front and just on like the block paved drive.
And I now will ask that they secure their dogs before I deliver the parcel, just for their benefit and for my benefit. I'm a lot more wary now, and I will just take a step back. I won't be so close.
Where I should have been more aware and maybe kept a bit of distance, let her come to me.
Take a few more seconds more, just to try and be aware of what could be coming out from behind the door. When I'm out working now, if I see a dog come rushing up to me, it does make you think now.
If we get out and we see a dog, we'll just go back to the van and we'll attempt that loop later on in the delivery.
I'll ask the customer, will you please put your dog behind the door, or I'm not going to be able to deliver my letter to your house.
If there's any risk to yourself, bring the mail back.
I've been more cautious and more aware because it wasn't good. It was the most unpleasant experience and I don't want it to happen again.
Dogs by their very nature are protective. Some breeds are much more protective than others. The key thing is to judge every dog that the postal worker is interacting with on its own merits. Be cautious, be aware of the environment, be aware of your space around the dog, and again, if in doubt, to keep out.